Hey, what's up? Jayson Gaddis here, back with another episode of the Smart Couple Podcast. Episode 140. All right, psyched to have you here. Thanks for hanging with us. And let's get into it. If you're new, this podcast is all about long-term relationship, partnership, monogamy, hanging with one person for many, many years through the ups and downs. And how do we succeed at that? How do we do well in that context? And more, we see that this is challenging because of the rise in polyamory and the divorce rate being, what it is. It's obviously hard to partner with someone. A lot of people say, hey, biologically, we're just not designed for this. This is not how we're made. I tend to disagree. If you look at the animal kingdom, there are many animals that are monogamous, such as the bald eagle, and there are many animals that are non-monogamous and very polyamorous, right? And animals that will choose, the male will mate with multiple partners, and sometimes the female will mate with multiple partners. So there's no overlay here that this is, I don't subscribe to this, we're not wired for long-term partnership. I disagree. I think some of us are. And you've got to find out what you're made of. If you stick it out with one person for a long time and you don't quit on it and quit on yourself and you stay in the fire and both parties are involved, because that's the only way it's going to work, then I guarantee you, and you have tools, I guarantee you're going to get to another special place where there's a lot more empowerment, sexiness, and joy on the other side of any of your challenges. But you got to do the work to get through that, okay? Yeah, and if you're returning, of course, welcome back. Quick heads up, we have a contest coming up, listener, so check this out. I'm going to give you details soon on the contest, and this contest could win you a free ticket to the Relationship Schools weekend live event, September 29th and October 1st. So put that date in your calendar right now. That's a Friday afternoon, all day Saturday, all day Sunday here in Boulder, Colorado. It's the opening weekend of our 9-month training, which you don't have to do. You can just come to the weekend portion, all right? And we're opening that up now. Go to jasongaddis.com/rsweekend if you want to find out more. And if you really want to jump in as a contest participant, you're going to have to be a member of the Smart Couple Podcast, and you will have had to leave us a review on iTunes. Those are your two basic qualifications, okay? I might throw in one more, but you may as well get warmed up there. So in the meantime, leave us a review. Go to jasongaddis.com/podcast review, and there's instructions on how to do that right from your phone. And you'll need to take a screenshot of that so we have proof that you indeed did leave a review, all right? And then the next thing is you got to be in our Smart Couple Facebook group. So jasongaddis.com/Smart Couple group will take you right to the Facebook page, okay? And you can ask to join. So stay tuned, coming up for more info on the contest. This episode in particular is going to be geared toward the men. Now, if you're a woman, obviously, please listen in and glean some really interesting tips here. As one of my friends and mentors, Satyen Raja, who's on this episode, will share. He's got lots of incredible insights. Okay, this is a guy who studied with David Data for many years and taught his own seminars for many, many years, and now teaches therapists and coaches and leaders all around the world. So this guy is a force, and I've had him and his wife on the podcast, episode 37, if you want to go check that out. They talk about an affair they got through and lots of other challenges and how they became stronger through a really, really big challenge. Okay, they're parents. They've been married 30 plus years now, and this is a man who knows what the hell he's talking about here. And so please check out the other podcast, episode 37, if you haven't listened to it and you're interested in this one. You'll hear from his wife and how they work it in their own marriage. And there was a lot of really good practical tips on that one as well. Okay, so in this episode, Satyen breaks it down for the men. And he talks about the four freedoms. Okay, a lot of men are in the conversation about feeling trapped in their job or in a relationship. And so we perk up when we hear, ooh, how can I be more free? How can I have more freedom? And Satyen has a great quadrant map of the four freedoms, so you're going to want to listen to that part. He's also got a great tip on how to transition from your purpose, if you're on purpose, back to your relationship, and how to do that well, because that's something I've struggled with. How do I walk out this door and go connect with my wife and my family and not bring work with me and all that stress or all the joy that work brings me? So that was really, really helpful for me. We get into the pain some of you men know personally from firsthand experience about not feeling like you're on your purpose or on your path in life. And that is painful. And I've been there. I know what that's like as well. For a lot of men, this is especially masculine-oriented men who know that they want to go out and hunt something and bring home food for their family. That's essentially your purpose. And if you don't know what that is, it just creates a lot of suffering. So he's got some good tips there. He talks a lot, his frames are a lot in the masculine, feminine, the masculine being the warrior consciousness and the feminine being the sage. So I think you're going to like his frames, and they're interesting to try on. Okay, so we're not talking about the gender binary thing. However, this conversation is definitely geared towards a more masculine man and a more feminine woman, whatever that means to you, okay? He also talks about the number one thing he's learned as a man with his wife, right? There's one huge tip here, and you're going to want to listen to that, all right? Now, this is a good episode, again, for the men. Women, I think you're going to get a lot out of this, and you're going to wonder why your guy is not behaving this way, and you're going to want a man like this, right? It's certainly going to call you forward. And for the guys, this is a leader here talking to us and calling us forward. So listen up, all right? Here's a little bit about Satyen Raja. I'm just going to read this, okay? He is the founder and president of Warrior Sage, a living synthesis of Eastern wisdom and Western practicality, combining the power of the warrior and the wisdom of the sage. He's a lifetime black belt martial artist and penetrating real visionary who compels his clients to harness their greatest obstacles and transform them into their most powerful gifts. Satyen draws from the realms of unparalleled techniques of life mastery, his profound life experience, and his natural ability to navigate beyond societal, cultural, and conditioned identities to attain peak consciousness. Okay, he's a master in a plethora of healing and consciousness-raising modalities. Satyen is unique in the world of business and life coaching. His revolutionary methods attract CEOs, entrepreneurs, high-level leaders from around the world. His provocative methods combined with his dynamic personality and passion for accelerated evolution create fundamental breakthroughs. All right, on and on. This guy is a beast, right? So I'll include his links in the show notes, and we'll mention those at the end of the interview as well. And of course, listen to the end for your action step. Okay, guys? Enjoy this deep and enlivening conversation with Satyen Raja. All right, welcome to the podcast, Satyen Raja.
Hey, Jayson. Thanks for having me, as always.
Yeah, man. So good to see you again.
As I was sharing just before, I've been following your posts and the relationship work. And that's very close to me, to, the cultivation of people who can help other people to have better relationships. Because, when we crack that code and work that, to me, like, that's one of the pillars of life. One of the deep satisfactions is to have passion for me with my wife. And so kudos to you and your team and all your growing students around that.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, and thanks for being a mentor along the way. Yeah. Okay, so I want to get back into this conversation around relationships. And as I've interviewed a lot of people, as you know, one of the common challenges that comes up is dealing with our own stuff that gets triggered inevitably in a partnership, particularly a long-term relationship. I mean, any relationship really, work relationships, friendships, but it really gets pretty hot and intense in the fire of partnership. So, you've been married a long time, you've had your own set of challenges, you work with people all the time, and I wanted to get into how we deal with our own problems, our own baggage. Because I think, from my experience with you, you have some pretty effective systems for that are maybe outside the norm or people aren't maybe familiar with yet.
Well, thank you. First of all, I think a lot of it has to do with attitude towards the relationship and the crucible, the container in which you can choose to hold a relationship with. It can be superficial, where you're there just for the basics of life, for sex and security and whatever else. Or you can elevate that intention and make it for where you're enjoying life together, learning together in relationship, inspiring one another. Then ultimately, I think relationship can even grow into where your combined passion with your partner, if you really cultivate it, not just sexual passion for sure, but also intellectual connection, um, going in the right place at the right time, and then ultimately a bigger purpose. And the relationship can find a bigger purpose than just being together, bigger purpose than just having kids and the kids alone, something even bigger than that. So I think when we try to source that, I try to do that with my wife, Suzanne. What is our biggest purpose? And she'll ask me. And then we align around that. And when we do that, that attitude that we're here to evolve each other, that's the one I like to take and works best with my wife. And then when shit's hitting the fan, I'm triggered by her. She's triggered by me. We're triggered. We're in our shit. Then it's like one of us has to make the noble gesture, the Camelot gesture of I'm going to open my heart first. I'm going to take the high road. I'm going to be the one who's going to take this as an opportunity to evolve our relationship rather than dig my heels in even further. Whoever the first who does that is that's an act of love.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't want to.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, that's a great frame. I just love this notion of what I think what you're speaking to is what I call the shared direction. Like what you're saying is this, what's our biggest, like the biggest vision for us in our life together. And I'm guessing so few couples actually go there because maybe they're bogged down, in day-to-day living or fighting or.
You don't even think about that because we're filled with all types of, in my work, I call it emotional charge.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way I look at work of this particular philosophy, you ask, what's my particular philosophy around this? It's very simple, in fact, because there's so many systems of self-help, psychotherapy, psychology, all with their own wisdoms, their own power, their own insight. But they're all different. Is the Jungian right? Freudian right? Is this particular method? There's so many methods all the time. And then the efficacy of whatever tools you use, that's one thing. And then the other thing is the person who's wielding those tools. Are you good at it? Are you mediocre at it? Are you a master at it? Are you just starting out at it? You want to be able to cultivate those. So when I'm looking at these things, what can we actually do? For me, the number one thing for me is not just that it feels good, but that it works fast.
Yeah.
That it works deeply, and then we get to deal with our core root without going around and around and around and around. Because I found with men, I'm a man, I found with more masculine-oriented men, a lot of us don't want to spend hours doing talk therapy. We don't want to spend hours. We want to get to a solution faster. Now, it's good for us to learn how to be better listeners for sure, to receive more, to up, 20, 30, 40% our ability. Like our game around listening and receiving without saying anything, without offering fix-it methods, because the masculine consciousness is always trying to get to the end of something and wrap it up to completion. We can curb that part back because the feminine's disposition, their deepest core, is about being received and the flow of connection and the flow of love.
Mm-hmm.
So if we know that that's their higher priority and we give more space to it, that's one of the number one things I've learned as a man in a relationship with my wife is, man, just shut the fuck up more. And then soften the front surface of my body, listen, receive. But that doesn't mean lay on my back and be a doormat. It just means fully absorb, like breathe her energy and her emotions. Actually, don't wall off in any way. Unzip the wall that's in front, the masculine energy. You can feel it because masculine tension and anger, how it shows up, it goes up the front surface of the body and our heads jut out. We become like a bucking ram.
Yeah.
When we're really angry, even our chins pop
Yeah.
out, right?
Yeah. I'm laughing because I know this, yes, in my own body.
Right? So what we can do, first of all, from the martial art tradition, from the yoga tradition, is we calm the energy down. So when we feel our anger come up, we feel we were stuck in our stance. Just imagine like a cooling energy coming down the front surface, like a waterfall. And then you can be more, just breathe a little, because it can sound crazy and obviously very emotional from the masculine standpoint of what's going on in a relationship. It's like way crazy. Crazy. This is far more response than what the situation requires or is called for. Because we're always trying to get to nothing and solution and quiet and peace. Whereas the feminine thrives on the energy of the connection. If there's too much peace, quiet, and neutralness, which the masculine loves within us, the feminine's going to feel bored, left out, alone, and wanting your contact.
Yeah. So funny, right? It keeps us on our toes.
Keeps us on our toes, and we got to be able to receive the energy and still make a decision. Yes, I'll give you 5 to 10 minutes, half an hour of my presence, my good undisturbed energy, and then be a dedicated man. Right, is what I say. Is let's be dedicated and give our children, our wives, our partners some really dedicated presence. That way, they're not yearning for it. Because if we're with them and we're giving sort of half-assed connection and presence and praise and attention, noticing how beautiful she is, noticing how smart the kids are, noticing the fun stuff, even though it's boring to you. I mean, some stuff is boring to me. I'm not into blocks and things like that, but our kids are. So it's bringing our attention to what's interesting for them. And that's the cultivation we can do as husbands, as partners, as fathers.
I almost hear you saying, see and notice how she sees the world and what she is digesting with the kids, let's say, and see her there and speak to her there. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Exactly. And you've probably heard this, this, we all know this. This is around that the masculine, we like to come to the completion of things so we can move on.
Yeah, back to the speed thing, right? Yep.
Right? So, but the feminine really needs the nourishment of our undivided presence. This is what I found, and I'm still working on. I'm in a relationship with Suzanne for 30 years. There's no mastery ever around it. There's just an everyday cultivation. It's like a gym of relationship.
How do us husbands, let's say, for the listener that's in that camp, who have a mission, and that's really important to us, and we want to work all the time, right? Because you're saying we've got to learn how to give our undivided attention to her. But for some men, they're going to translate that as, I got to stop doing my mission, I got to stop doing my work, and now I got to just be present all the time for her. I know that's not what you're saying. So just unpack that a little bit.
Sure. So for me, it used to be either or, so I know exactly what you're talking about. I used to have that division in my mind. It's either this or this. My attention is on this. Then when I was a business and work, I'm thinking of, feeling guilty, I'm not there. And then when I'm with them, I can't get all these thoughts of things I got to get done.
This is like the classic male mind.
Right, trying to push that out of my mind as well, right? So what I've been personally focusing on the last few years myself is equilibrium. It's not sexy to have equilibrium, balance it's not sexy, that sound, we're always thinking, hey, let's crush it. Hey, let's man up and all of that. But equilibrium doesn't sound too manly. But I think it's one of the wisest things we can do for the long-term warrior within us. We can build our short-term warrior or medium-term warrior, but the long-term warrior equilibrium pays off. And to me, that's divided into these freedoms, what I call the freedoms. Faith, which is belief in self and divinity, whatever that is to yourself, within the universe, that it's working, it's on your side. Belief in yourself, so that's faith. Family, so your relationships, making sure that they're healthy, you're nurturing them. And faith also requires, the faith is like studying, learning, expanding your mind, expanding your repertoire, your knowledge, learning to meditate, learning to check more, becoming wiser. Wisdom is an undervalued thing nowadays, In the old days, it was valued. The wise people were at the top, and the ones who had the most bling bling, they weren't as respected. Now it's the other way around. Those who have wisdom are shunned and made fun of, and those who have bling bling are idolized. So if we can reverse that trajectory in ourselves, we'll grow that faith side. And that'll affect our family and our relationship. And then finance. So with our finance, it's not just about making more, it's about having peace. Peace. For me, for a period of my life, I was driven by more. And I had balancing forces. Because when you really push too much of the warrior, what happens is we diminish the sage, the wisdom development. Mm-hmm. Just like our technology is ahead of perhaps our wisdom as mankind we've got things that can kill the whole planet, but are we wise enough to wield those? Probably not so much. So if we can up that wisdom, we can up that. So faith, family, finance, and having peace. So stay earning within our means, spending within our energy. Eliminating debt, dissolving out of our life for real. Then we get more of our own power back. Focusing on how can I up-level my offer in the world? How can I up-level my skill, my trade? Doesn't matter if you're what type, if you're working or you're running big corporations. It's like when we can really dial ourselves up to, hey, listen, what can I do to give even 100% better service today?
Yeah, I love it. What value am I really bringing to the world? Can I really get behind that and offer it? Yeah.
And then in fitness, we could have faith really well. We could have finance. We could have our money really, family, our relationships going smooth. But if we don't have the energy in our body, then we can't fulfill a strong mission. We tire out while we're on the path of our mission. So fitness is, and it's not about big. It's not becoming ripped. It's not always about becoming a star for other people. If that happens as a result, great. But the motivation that I like to source in myself is I care less about how ripped I look. For me, I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that for me that has been a training and a sport that's really helped me develop my warrior side as well as my awareness, and keeps me clean. It keeps me humble because every day I'm getting my ass whipped.
Yeah.
And once in a while I'm doing that to someone else. So it's also good for the healthy ego, right? Because it's based. So whatever that challenge is, that for yourself, that's not just honing your body, but you're honing your mind. You're challenging yourself in fitness. You're proving this for no one else. You're challenging your own self to go beyond your comfort zone. And so those quadrants all together, faith, family, finance, and fitness, they should all be done with fun. Fun is the underlying magic, right? Or else you get too serious, you become too heavy. You know what I mean? To me, the archetype of the warrior is this driven, good intention, getting actions done. And the sage, the wisdom, the sage is a part of us that knows how to surrender, how to invite, how to express our feelings, how to really how to lower importance on things and not work ourselves up into any type of drama.
Yeah. Are you saying, just to clarify, is the warrior a little more masculine and the sage is more feminine? Is it that obvious?
I would say that for sure.
Okay.
I would say that for sure.
Yep. So you're saying this man, us, a guy listening, has to, he can get into the either or camp. My woman just wants me to be present all the time and just wants me to listen
Yeah.
to her. And now I'm thinking about work and I'm not present. But you're saying if we bring in the warrior and the sage into our relationship with her, chances are that's going to go better. Yeah.
The sage will have you become more connected, have deeper emotional connection, which then leads, you see, the feminine body, her heart and genitals, her sexual energy and her heart are deeply connected right from birth. So when you're, it's for her vagina, for her sexuality, for her energy to be really open and sensual and really wanting you, her heart's got to open first so the energy goes down.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Now, for the masculine body, it's the exact opposite. The sexual energy's got to open first before the heart goes, and that energy goes up to open the heart.
Are you saying, and is that kind of a, not to get too black and white here, is that an always kind of, would you say that's just 80%? Would you say
Generalities,
okay?
generalities, and there's generalities in, but the thing is what can happen is we could be really like loving, caring, but then not be turned on. We could be turned on, really horny and hot with our partners or whatever, and get turned on, and we may not feel so loving in that moment. What's really delicious to the partners is both, as you said, not either or, but learning to combine and to cultivate both of those aspects. That warrior, the one that has presence, the one that has claim energy. You're mine, I love you. That can make her feel safe in your strength, in your sureness,
Yeah.
in your integrity, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the presence, claim, that ability to penetrate her with your eyes, your heart, not only your genitals, heart, and your eyes and your soul, letting her being a full-bodied, full soul type lover. That's like that's a journey, but we just have to want that.
Yeah.
And that will start.
So okay, so what's a practical exercise a guy can do if he's in that camp we talked about earlier where he's with her, he's having a hard time being present because he's stressed out about work or he's can't wait to get back to work or something. What's sort of a simple hack or just a technique that he might be able to do to get to work on this, because that's maybe his habit or his his default.
What works really well for me is, so if I'm having a series of so for example, before I hopped on with you today, I was in my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class with my mentor, and I knew if I just come like that, probably maybe I needed to shake off the energy. So what I did was I take 10 minutes minimum. Sometimes, if I need more, I take more. But 10 minutes minimum when I'm finished some project, some martial arts, whether I'm finished some business meeting, some work meeting with my staff or whatever, my team, then I take 10, 15 minutes and I totally I breathe. Sometimes I'll go for a walk in nature and grass. I'll lay down on the ground. And then I make a conscious decision to change my identity. Because in one realm, I'm the identity of a martial artist. In the other floor that I'm on, I'm the identity of a team, one of the team players in business. But if I bring those two identities and seep them into my identity of being a husband, it's a bit weird. And I used to do that. I brought my business identity mindset, and plus I'm also a coach. So the worst thing she doesn't want me to coach her. I got my coach hat on. It was like residual. Like I had a hard time getting out of one head space and then moving into the other.
Totally. Yes.
So what I do is now I do a ritual of take 10 minutes. I'll take a breath and I'll just imagine I'm cutting all the connections like this, like a martial art, like I'm just cutting all the connections to that world I was just in. So I just like from the front surface of my body, I do that with a deep breath. And anyone can do this. You can do this with me. It's just like, and then you just, then what I do is I say thank you to space I was just in, the people, the interaction in my mind. I just say thank you. And then I close the door to that in my mind. I just literally close the door to that. I visualize closing the door to that. And I thank and I walk away. Then I think in my head, okay, who am I going to be meeting? Oh, it's going to be my daughter and my son. Okay, I got to put the identity on as a father. I can't put this other identity on. It's got to be me as my father identity. My wife alone, it's that. I'm of a lover, but it's, I put my lover identity on. And so it's about dialing in what type of relationship you want to have for the rest of the day with them. And then seeing that, visualizing that. So how I cut off that and I said close the door to that experience, which was business or martial arts before I came here. Well, I'm going to do the same with this when I go meet my wife, who's made a nice lunch for me after this interview.
Wow. My wife's going to love this because, I'll sometimes come out of the office, I work from home, and I can't wait. I'll be in this space of excitement or something or stress, and I can't wait to share it with her or offload it, right? And I'm doing it literally as I'm coming out sometimes, inhaling some food, and she's just kind of like this, right? Because I'm bringing it all into the mix.
It's coming from doing her thing.
Right. So I'm appreciating this because this is going to be a good exercise for me.
So that's the one I do. I take a few breaths and then I connect with them. And then when I come in, I show my soft self, like my true self.
Yeah, my heart. So I'm available, honey.
I'm who I am in every situation. I'm not acting. I'm changing the identity, the responsibility I'm on.
Right, but like
I'm always myself.
I like what you just said. You're not acting. You're not trying to be someone you're not. You're being who you are as a dad. You're being who you are as a husband. You're being who you are as an entrepreneur or whatever, right? A coach. Yeah, great.
Exactly.
Nice. And I'm guessing that gets received well, right?
Physical action is good. The physical action and taking 10 minutes away is good because we deserve it. We need that we move too fast beyond it, from one world to another. This is what I've learned. And when we can just have these in between the worlds experience,
yeah,
and that becomes our 5-10 personal sacred time.
Yeah,
readjustment,
transitions, right? Slow down the transitions.
Yeah, you got it. It's just like a fighter. Boom, boom, boom. You go fight one round. You come back. The bell rings. You sit on there. You breathe. You recollect yourself. You get ready. You visualize. You get a feedback on how that last round was. Okay, that was good. Keep your hands up higher. Blah blah blah. And then you get some coaching from your. And then you go out there and you do it again. But it's a different. But now you're going in a different world. The more you bring physical ritual into that, the better it is.
Cool. Let's transition to. I want to talk about two things here. One is men and purpose, and then I want to come back to our original question around healing and more inner work on ourselves. Maybe your process to do that. So first, this purpose thing, because we're a little bit talking about kind of a traditional male-female relationship here, where the guy is working and the woman's waiting to receive him. Let's say, even though she's probably been working also these days. For a guy who's how essential do you think for a man to be in his mission or on a purpose in his life, and how, if a guy is not doing that, how does that impact his relationships, especially his primary one? Because so many guys are lost, right? There's a lot of men that are lost and purposeless.
Yeah, I know, man. And that's, when I see my brothers out there who are lost, who don't know their mission, that's like, and when I've been lost and I haven't known my mission, I've been in those in-between phases where my previous mission ran its course. I did it for years and it wasn't true for me anymore. And I was in that phase of, okay, what's next? That's a delicate period for the masculine.
Yeah, big time.
Delicate. All right. In the old days, we would honor it. Nowadays, we sometimes are shameful of it. Hide it or go towards distractions or drugs or booze or
try to hurry up and find the answer, so we're in our heads all the time trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So how crucial it is the masculine within us needs to feel that it's navigating towards something bigger, something deeper, something that has more truth than the current truth that's being lived. We need that. We need to be moving towards something that's giving us a mission that's creating more freedom for ourselves and freedom for our families and freedom for society, whatever level you're drawn to engage that at. And unfortunately, this world doesn't support our own inner mission. It usually supports us latching on to someone else's mission. And if that's the case, so be it. If it's true for you, then you're part of some other bigger mission. Great. There's a lot of clubs and organizations which are doing good work, which you're not going to get paid for, but it's to get involved in something that's doing good, moving your heart forward, moving your, making you feel like you're contributing beyond just the everyday, livelihood of life.
Yeah.
That part is very valuable to nurture. And if we don't, we're going to starve, and we'll really end up in a lot of bullshit distractions, spending money going on this and that, casinos, and never being fulfilled, really.
Yeah, and then how does that impact our relationships? Because I see this a lot, right?
Well, well, if you're distracted and you're not in the meditation or in the deep consideration of what's your next path, what are you really meant to live, what's your mission or purpose. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be huge, but when you're floundering in it or you're not active about moving forward in it, it actually causes our women to mistrust us. They feel that they have to shore up their masculine direction in the absence of your mission. And so their mission accomplishment, they start to build up and get stronger in that and feel that they have to, because they're responsive to the fact that it's perhaps not activated, or you're fearful about moving forward with a mission that you feel is inside of you, or you've been procrastinating or holding back in some way. That affects our partners by having them become more rigid, more firm, more masculine themselves. And then that tends to lower the attraction factor, the sexual attraction factor, as well as the passion diminishes. This is the long-term effects. And then ultimately the loss of trust. And this is all nonverbal. They're not even thinking this. It's in their body. They feel it. But the beauty of the feminine is the moment you do find and you say, okay, I'm going to make my purpose. And this is not a trick, a mental trick, but it's got to be genuine when you say, you know what, I'm really confused about my purpose. So I don't even have any idea. Where can I start? Google, how to find your purpose. Go to Jayson. Let me find out a class, or go to consult him. How do I find my purpose? Whatever, like just starting and embarking on that journey, if you are in those lost realms, is your first heroic step.
Yeah. Being in the question.
You got to take at least 3. Because 1, you may quit after the first step that you're in. You got to take 3 and then get the next 3 instructions to move forward. Do it in steps of 3. If you try to think my purpose, now I need to know the 50 steps of building this worldwide thing that changes kids' lives. Well, no. What's the next 3 fucking things you got to do? No more, no less, and do that. Because that way you'll feel fulfilled at the end of a day or 2 that you move 3 steps forward, rather than staying around in dreamland about your purpose.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it seems harder for guys these days, especially got men of privilege, because they're so medicated down to life has almost gotten easy in a certain way. Like the distractions are endless, right? Away from myself and my journey. I can, any pain I feel and experience, I can just medicate somehow. I can jerk off, I can eat food, I can drink, I can smoke, I can get on the web and just endlessly surf. I mean, it seems, I don't know, if you're older than I am, so would you say that's true? Like, has it gotten in a way harder because we're like more disconnected, or has this always been the case?
Well, for a long, long time, our ancestors were faced with day-to-day challenge and death.
Totally, right? And the purpose is clear.
It's to survive another day,
Yeah.
to get your family through the week.
Yeah.
Put food on the table for thousands and millions of years. Right now, we have our all many comforts in our life, many comforts, and like you said, internet and all these particular things that we can be drawn into. For me, the biggest solution is cultivating depth.
How do we do that?
You first recognize where you're being shallow, where life sucks, where you're too reactive, where you've got traumas, you've got reactions, you're pissed off too often, you've got vitriol, you've got resentment to people, you're righteous about something, and you've been righteous. Those are the areas, that's the first area that you got to go, okay, you know what? To go deeper, the first thing you got to recognize is that you are the generator of that. There's something not only out there in the world, but also inside of you. And you got to have the humility to be able to take a breath back. How you go deeper is you starts with humility to look at your own self from an objective, from standing out. How you also go deeper is you circle around with other brothers who can see you beyond your own blind spots. I surround myself with brothers, I have my own confidence in myself, and I've done well for myself in my life. But to keep myself that way, to keep myself honed, I make sure that I'm not like, king of my own hill.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
make sure I'm not the king of my own hill.
Where you're all insulated.
That's why before I came to this class, I got the shit kicked out of me, right? For like, 3 rounds of 5 minutes with black belts, right? Like bam, bam, bam. And they're like crushing me, right? So it keeps their viewpoints infuse mine. I get to see where my blind spots are. Well, we must do the same psychologically. We've got to do the same with our personality, our identity. Dude, you're amazing with children and this, but your wife, you talk to her like she's only a mother. You need to speak to her like she's a sex goddess, like she's hot, even though she's not hot to you right now. Treat her and talk to her, let her know what she like. Babe, I mean, your ass is so hot. She may feel like it's like 12 feet wide, after, 3 months after having her child. But you turn it up. You make her feel like a woman, not just like a mama. So that's an example of getting insight from other brothers that can shore up your blind spots and up level your whole being. I think that's something that I do, and I've been doing it all my life.
Yeah, it's been huge in my life as well. Yep.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable. Accountability, challenge, that kind of like no bullshit advice, cutting through my crap, seeing my blind spots when I can't see them.
And then read stuff that's above your reading level. Read stuff above your reading level. Don't just laugh and giggle about stuff. Don't something that's outside of your framework.
Yeah, where you feel like a student, right?
Pick up a book. Pick up a book on spirituality. Pick up a book. And I know you have amazing books you recommend. I saw one of your posts of the books that you read and stuff. Or I think it's like read stuff that's going to make you deeper daily. I'm surrounded by books. I got books all around me.
Yeah,
And,
it's been helpful for me too. Yeah, okay, so we're talking about depth for the men that are listening, and this obviously applies to women too, but we're zeroing in on guys. Like one of the first steps that they can do to move towards more purpose and meaning in life is to cultivate depth, is what I hear you saying. And one of our first steps, you said, is to call ourselves out on where we're being shallow, right? How we're just all the games we play to avoid and dodge and weave responsibility.
and get your buddies that you trust. Say, guys, tell me what I'm good at. Tell me my blind spots. And you got to be like totally hold yourself in and don't say when they're telling you your blind spots, or actually when they're telling you good stuff. Don't go, yeah, okay, thank you, man. Just shut up. Just go receive it. When they tell you the stuff that's sour, hey, dude, you're this and this, or maybe this area, that do the same. Don't justify. Don't tell them why. Don't get pissed off them because they told you the brass tacks. They're giving their reflection. When you can treat their praise and critique, and you treat it with silent power, praise and critique with silent power, man, that's depth. That's a powerful way to cultivate depth, is be immovable by both. Be nurtured and get insight from both, but don't collapse in praise. Oh, really? Oh, God, the world loves me. Next moment, someone says, I can't stand you, you'll collapse.
Yeah, totally.
You'll be rocked around. Someone says, you're awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Keep it simple, noble, like a warrior.
I love it.
Do the same. Hey, dude, you're a dick. I can't believe it. Thank you. I received that.
Exactly, man. Now we're talking. Okay, so let's say the guy's working on himself. He's starting to do some of this shit. Now I want to just transition into healing before we stop and wind down. And I want to just kind of pick your heart and brain here about this one, because I love, you've given me a session before and it was really powerful. And I know the work you do is really deep with people and effective and, like you said, efficient. And so just let's zoom out and talk high level for a minute about kind of trauma, victim consciousness. What is it that we need to do to truly get empowered? And then maybe a couple steps on how, based on your methods and experience.
Sure. So trauma is anything above and beyond what we could possibly handle at any particular time when we were a youth or child or baby or adult. It was some extreme experience, physical, mental, emotional, something that was just overwhelming, and car accident, just someone hitting you, something not so nice. And so in that moment, we shock and we freeze. In my work, I call it accelerated evolution. And we have accelerated evolution guides who help people go through and release trauma. And we do that like literally in like 30 minutes or less. It's like very profound method that one of my mentors taught me and that I'm training now, guides, coaches, physicians, therapists around the world. And so I advocate it because it's deep, it's effective. And the whole philosophy behind it is that these traumas suspend part of our evolution back there when it happened. We made a decision of defeat in that time. Because of that, I won't do this again. I won't trust men again. I won't trust women again. I won't trust business partners again. I won't trust black people again, white people again. Whatever that trauma in that particular time makes most of the time an unconscious decision made in the moment of some type of overwhelmed defeat. In that decision, that's operating unconsciously underneath us. So we avoid all the stuff of life so as not to recreate that trauma again in the present or the future. Unfortunately, when we grow up, that hinders us. It keeps us from the full enjoyment of life because we're in defense mode 5, 10, 20, 30 years later. Our body is in defense mode. Our psychology is in a defense mode. And because we've been living like that for so long, it becomes the norm. We don't even know what it's like to be without that charge. So trauma is sustained or gets lodged into 4 elements in our mind, in our being. The first one is mental images. So traumatic incidents. I remember a bike accident I had once. I remember I flew off the bike and I just sort of froze. So that image was there in my mind. So mental images. Thoughts is the other area that trauma gets lodged in, or thoughts. So I'm not worthy, or I'll never be strong enough, or
this is my fault, or
it's my fault, all of that. So there's all of that, right? So mental images, mental thoughts, and then emotions. So feeling of guilt, feeling of helplessness, feeling of, you're moving forward towards some type of goal, and then you feel flat again. You don't know why. Where'd the energy go? How did I peter out? Why did I get lazy? It could be a trauma underneath in the psychology lingering. So images, thoughts, emotions, or feelings. And the last area trauma gets lodged in is the body sensations, the body experiences. Our breath can become more shallower, and we're doing it for 20 years. We don't even realize, perhaps we've never taken a deep breath to feel safe enough, because our psychology is protecting us still from recreating trauma. So it could be our breath, our posture, our guardedness, our ease in social settings. All these things could be affected and are affected. And so trauma literally limits and crimps our ability to have a full, pleasurable, peaceful, and really adventurous life, because we're living muted in a way. Some of us, to some degree, have muscled through it, powered through it. That's one way of doing it: muscle through it, power through it, overcome it. But you can do that, but there's a balancing force there's a backlash when you use excessive will to overcome. And if you haven't faced it, it keeps coming up, So traditional methods aim to unpack, speak about it, share about it. In this particular method that I offer, called accelerated evolution, we seek to eliminate the charge in the mental images, thoughts, emotions, and body sensations thoroughly, 100%. And we do that in a very short 1, 2, 3, very, very few sessions that are required to do that. And then what it does, it dissolves that negative charge. And then when it's dissolved from the past, and that energy that was trapped in the past from your shock, your trauma, guess what? That energy gets liberated, freed up to come back in this present. And it shows up as creativity. It shows up as ease. It shows up as more fluidity in relationships. It shows up as opportunities coming to you. So that's what happens when you freed up the trapped energy. That charge really is locked in.
Yeah, it's amazing. What would you say is maybe one key difference or a couple key differences between what you're talking about in your methods and, say, traditional psychotherapy?
I'm trained in therapy as well, and there's very powerful uses in many ways. For me, accelerated evolution represents the cutting edge of relief, in the sense of it's fast. First of all, we don't need to take a long history on what happened at all. So what I like about that is I don't have to sit with the client and listen to I don't have to put them through the pain of reliving and saying all what happened in the trauma again. They've already been traumatized. So with accelerated evolution, we don't even need to hear any of that. We just need to know you came into it. You can share whatever minor detail of it. That's all you need to say. And then it's also fast. So rather than going for 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years of sessions, the release of the charge that was holding one back can happen even in one session, like totally gone.
Yeah.
And for some people who are more stubborn, a little bit longer.
Right. What I remember with the session you gave me is, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a real balancing force to it. So, and it's very much in the body, but what some kind of gross misunderstanding here might be, or just a simplistic understanding, is taking the pain and also seeing the other side of the pain and almost titrating between the pain and a resource, or how it helped me, or would you say something like that? Like, how would you say it?
Yes, exactly. So there's different methods that we use based on what someone comes with, all right? Okay. Because sometimes the trauma affects one area, but it's really affecting the relationship, or one's ability to make money or to keep money, or one's ability to get inspired around health or whatever. It affects different areas. What I've experienced is that what we basically do is we have a person go through a very specific guided protocol, a very specific verbally guided set of instructions, which take them through the traumatic experience in a very short way, and then gets them to duplicate. The philosophy is that if we duplicate the original charge, the images, the thoughts, the emotions, and the body sensations thoroughly, then it vanishes out of your mind. It's actually gone. But if you keep talking about it, you linger it. Every time you talk about it, you're remembering the last time you remembered it. You don't remember the original time. You're remembering the last time you remembered it. So that's the other big difference is we go for elimination. We also go and we look at all the alternate viewpoints that are involved. So if it's a relation, if it's some upset or trauma or feeling of doubt or feeling of you feel stagnant in a relationship, or you're stuck in business or work, we look for where's the charge. That's what Accelerated Evolution Guide does, is we look for where is the biggest charge you hold, and What are the images, the thoughts, the emotions, and the body sensations? And then we take them through an exact guided protocol, and depending on which one, and then what happens is the charge dissolves out of that. One is left with is a state of peace. It's beyond psychology. It's not just a mental. It's not just like I feel better. It's more like you're in a state of the mystics would call it a state of oneness, a state of expansion, a state of total clear mind where there's no problem anymore. And like Einstein said, that you can't change the problem at the same level of thinking that created the problem. You need to jump a level of thinking. So what we do is we jump to the highest level of thinking that we can get to, and that changes our relationship. And we get to restructure the problem. So not only is there a relief, there's a growth in wisdom, and you feel good inside and peaceful.
Yeah, thank you for giving us a quick hit on that and describing it. If someone wants to follow up with you or your team or your coaches, what's the best way they can do that, the listener?
Well, if you want to experience, and we actually have an online training, and we also do free webinars on simple methods that you can utilize at home yourself starting today. And to find that out, you can go to I'll give my main website. It's warriorsage.com, WARRIORSAGE, warriorsage.
We'll put that in the show notes.
And then there's also AEmethod.com. AE standing for Accelerated Evolution Method.com. AEmethod.com. And there you can be invited to our next webinar that we have, where I actually teach some of these methods that people can learn and do at home right away on themselves.
Yeah, great. That's another benefit to this model, right? Is we can do that work on ourselves. We don't have to go hire someone necessarily, maybe in the beginning, but eventually once we get the hang of it, it can be something we can do on our own.
Exactly. For me, the Warrior Sage is about, yes, get help, get insight and so forth, but you got to do the work. You got to do the push, you got to do the work. So to learn how to get yourself and get your own mind in peak performance, peak alignment, peak existence, solo processing, doing these methods in a solo way is very powerful. It's like meditation, mindfulness on steroids, really.
Yeah. Super cool, man. Awesome. So we'll include all that resource in the website, and Satyen and his wife Suzanne have a new website there, warriorsage.com. It's beautiful. There's lots of great resources in there. So we'll include that. And then circling back as we wind down and stop to the men, what's kind of final parting words to a guy out there who's, just in pain, stuck, in his relationship specifically? There's some relational pain, and then that obviously sets off the bigger pain that, my life isn't what I want it to be. Yeah. What are your sort of parting words for that man?
Well, I'm going to come from a really high up place here, okay, for a sec. Really high up. And, for me, this world is a world of duality, polarities. There's going to be tides, upswings and downswings. It's cyclical. It's cyclical. There'll be like waves of the ocean, time they come in and they come out and so forth. I want you to know, from a place of my compassion from man to man, everyone listening and being part of this, it's like at the end of the day, you're actually not going to win. Our bodies will die. Our highest hopes, dreams, and aspirations will come to an end. We'll cease. If there's anything else, great. I'm open to that. And I have my beliefs around that. I'm sure everyone has their own. But I'm not going to wait for that time. I'm not going to wait for this after the death. I don't know, really. Truly, if we're really truly, we can have belief. But it's meant to be. It's not really knowable. So knowing that the end of life is you're going to fail, then the paradoxical warrior sage practice is to allow yourself to fail totally inside your mind. If you have a goal, you feel you're trying to latch on to something, business, career, wife, this, whatever, children, and if you're not doing well in a certain area and you're at the end, in your mind's eye and your being, feel it failing all the freaking way to the end. Just imagine it, your worst disaster, everything falling apart, you go bankrupt, everyone leaves you, whatever your worst nightmare would be. And then sit in meditation at the end of it. Just be quiet for a few minutes. And you'll realize you're still here. Then from knowing, because we always try to stop ourselves from going to the end, just visualizing the worst thing that can happen, right? But if you do that and you let yourself go to the end, then you'll come to a place that the Buddhists call uh, detachment, where you've lowered the importance on all the things that your attachments. Then when you're in this place of lowered importance, after you've seen it all, now do the right thing. Now do one thing, like I said, 3 steps?
Yep.
3 steps.
3 steps.
That's it. Do the freaking 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. Do your work. But do it from the place of lowered importance rather than hyping yourself up. You'll find that you'll actually be it'll activate a whole other level of secret power, which cannot be gotten only from motivational intention.
Yeah. Yeah, like brute force or willpower. Awesome. Wow, thanks for that deep download there at the end. I love the depth you bring, Satyen, and it's always great to connect with you. Really appreciate your time here.
And my love and the respect to all the brothers and sisters and everyone listening today.
Yeah, thanks.